Well, if you're looking for trouble, I'm the man to see. If you're looking for satisfaction, the satisfaction guaranteed. I'm as cool as a body on ice, hotter than the rolling dice. Send you to heaven, or take you to hell.
Welcome to Glasgow Apollo Live with Scott and Andy.
But it's not Scott and Andy, it's just me. How are you doing, everybody? I was having a think about tonight, and right at this minute, I'm in Lauders with a big bunch of you guys, probably by now, half cut, probably fully cut by now, actually. And I thought, well, you know, it's a shame that everybody can't be there. So I thought I'd do a wee bit of a show for those of you who are maybe, you know, not quite sure about getting back to events yet, or maybe you're living overseas. And for my mate Andy, I thought it would be nice to just play a few tunes on a Friday night like we always do, just to know that we're thinking about you because we do appreciate you. So tonight it's just going to be me wittering a little bit, and I've pulled together 4 pieces of music from the absolutely wonderful Rescued recordings. Now I know we mention these guys every week, and it is really important to us that Jack McCafferty, Stephen McKinley, and Phil Osborne do this for us. They bring together all these brilliant recordings from the Apollo Greens Playhouse for us to enjoy on the show and in the privacy of our own home. So thanks to the guys, as always, at Rescued Recordings. It's so good having you guys working in the background, gathering and being like detectives of music, gathering all this stuff for us from all over the place. So we do appreciate it. So this is the 72nd show, which I find just bewildering, and I know Andy does as well. It's just crazy. We did honestly, when we started this, and I've probably said this before, when we started this, we were just doing it for something to do during lockdown. I think at the time we had 4,000 people in the Facebook group, and we started posting a little bit more in the Facebook group, and now we've got 11,400 people in the Facebook group, and over 70% of those are active. And tonight there's about 80 of us all together in Lauders Bar, Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow, having not Sauchiehall Street, what am I talking about? Renfield Street in Glasgow, having a few beers and actually being together, which is really quite amazing. So I've had a busy few weeks myself, and next week, I think I mentioned in the show last week, I'm off to Glastonbury to work for the first time on the crew. Nothing glamorous, I'm just doing litter picking and a little bit of traffic control, but nevertheless, it's going to be good fun to be there. I'm going with my son, my eldest son, who's 24. His name's Rory. He's a big music fan. And it's going to be kind of interesting, you know, seeking out bands that we both like. He's more into the sort of the alt rock stuff, but he's a guitar player, so he gets the rock and roll thing as well. But a lot of the bands that are there this year are okay, but there are some quite interesting old bands that were Apollo bands like the Damned and Tom Robinson Band, people like that, and obviously Paul McCartney, who played at the Apollo Under Wings. So there's a few of them there. Diana Ross is on as a headliner, or what they call it, the ancient slot. I think they call it something else, like the great or the something else. But anyway, she's on as well. So yeah, I've no doubt see some of these bands, and I'll report back on what I think of these groups and what it's like at Glastonbury. I've always had a bit of a thing about Glastonbury, not a positive thing, because I've always thought it's been the sort of the corporate heart of everything that's wrong with music. But things are changing, and the live event and the live events and the festivals are actually where the bands make their money these days. So it's changed. Its whole thing is changing. Now I don't know if Glastonbury's ever going to have the sort of bands that I like to listen to playing, but they've got a Skunk Anansie there, they've got Robert Plant there, so there are bands that I do like, and there's punk bands, so that's quite cool. And there's obviously a few electronic bands there. There's a lot of contemporary pop bands there as well, but of course there is, because it's for the kids. So we'll see how it goes, but I think things are changing. So as I say, I'll report back on how I feel it went. So tonight, well, I've kind of got into the archive. There's one that just came out this week from Jack and the lads that I thought would have a go, because it's one of the rare support acts that we've actually got a Rescued recording from. So I thought I'd play them. We're then going to go down a long route to sort of the punk world and play some, you know, good old Scottish punk played before. We've played one of the tracks I'm going to play before, but not the other, and it's an absolute classic. So I'm looking forward to playing that. Then we're going to go and listen to it's a Scotsman. He's not always known as a Scotsman. He's more a Geordie these days, but some lovely ambient music with a fantastic crowd response. And then finally, just because I can, we're going to play a bit of Marilyn at the end and do one of my favourite Marilyn songs from the Fish era back in the 1980s. So we're going to do that tonight. Obviously, this isn't going to be live. It's going to be recorded, but you can chat. You can still use the chat box. You can still comment on Facebook. And I'll make sure everybody in Lauders knows that the show's running. And no doubt there'll be some abuse for me playing Marilyn again. I'm sure Butch will enjoy that. But anyway, please comment. Let me know what you think, and we'll have a bit of fun, no doubt, with that as well. So to the first band tonight. Well, they're called Quiet Riot. Now they always struck me as one of these bands that were like, well, they nearly made it, but I mean in America they were absolutely huge, so they did make it in America, not so much in the United Kingdom. And it was started by one of the legends of rock music, really. It was Randy Rhoads, who founded Quiet Riot in 1973, believe it or not. The thing I didn't know, and I was just doing, I wasn't researching, that would be getting a far too grand a word, but the thing I didn't know until I was just having a wee peek at the background was the band's name was actually inspired by a quote from Rick Parfitt of Quo. And Parfitt had said somewhere that he thought the name Quite Right would be a good name for a band. And apparently they misheard that and they thought it was Quiet Riot. And that's how the band got their name. So I never knew that. The other thing that we all know Quiet Riot for is that they got quite famous for doing covers of one of our own, Slade. And I think they did an okay job of it. I know they got a lot of abuse, but I didn't mind them at all. And this was a gig when they were supporting Judas Priest, who coincidentally were the first band I ever saw just 2 years earlier in 1981. This is from 1983, and this is a song that is a Slade song, and I think they do a pretty good job. Now, it is a rescued recording, and I don't think this is a radio recording, it's a fan recording. So I hope you enjoy it. This is Quiet Riot doing an absolute classic from Slade. Come on, feel the noise, from the Glasgow Apollo in 1983. God, a long time ago.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, let me see. It seems I forgot to tell you, everybody, is on drums, Frankie Vanilli. And on bass guitar, Rudy Sarzo. Well, we're going to finish up now. We got one thing left to do, and I want you all to scream till your throats bleed on this one. It's entitled, Come On, Feel the Noise! Come on, feel the noise! Girls, rock the boys, sing it! Let me hear you!
Now, I don't know about you lot, but I thought that was pretty good. The energy was good, and certainly for a support act, it was pretty damn good. And I know it's a Slade song, and only Noddy Holder can sing like Noddy Holder. But the chap, I think his name was DeBow or something. He died of a heroin overdose in 2007, I think. But he had a good voice, a bit higher pitched than Noddy, but not quite Geddy Lee. The other thing that was interesting at the beginning, he said Rudy Sarzo. Is it Rudy? What's his name? Rudy Sarzo. Yeah, Sarzo. He ended up in Whitesnake. So, and he's been a bit of a journeyman, but he's been around. He's a pretty well-respected guitarist. So you had like Randy Rhoads, who obviously wanted to play for Ozzy. Not at that gig, he wasn't in the band at that point. But yeah, so it was a pretty important little pivotal band, and quite a few other things that happened during the 80s and into the 90s. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. It was quite cool. Right, next up, I'm going to go completely a different direction now. I'm going to go and play some punk, because I know there's a lot of you like punk, and we don't have enough rescued recordings from the punk era from the Apollo. It really is a shame. I mean, we've got mainly rock music, a little bit of punk, virtually no pop. So there really virtually no country. There is a real dearth of different types of music, which I think some people think that we only play rock music on it because we're rock fans, but no, we want to play any type of music. So this is an example of how good a punk band could be live. Now, the other thing about this band, the Skids, is that they had one of their own playing guitar and singing backing vocals in the band, Stuart Adamson, who would later go on to form Big Country, as we all know, but he's also passed away, which is such a shame. The Skids were a band who came from Fife, who had a massive break when they were basically heard playing, and John Peel again really liked them, and he got them a gig supporting the Clash, and the rest, I guess, is history, because the song I'm going to play, at least the first song I'm going to play, was a number one for them. So they started off with a bang, really. They did really, really well. And then they went through various lineup changes, and then obviously they split up, and she went on to form, as I said, Big Country. But they're a band that are still going, and many of the original members are still in the band, which is great, including Richard Jobson, who was the singer right at the beginning of the Skids time. It's quite ironic, though, because later on, when they had an album, I've talked about this in the show before, when they had an album that looked quite Germanic, as in during the Second World War Germanic, they got quite a lot of abuse, including from John Peel, that they had gone too far. But hey, punk's meant to push the buttons, isn't it? So I hope you enjoy this. This is a song that, even when I was in the sort of the throes of being a Motorhead fan, in 1981, 1980, this song just jumped out at me, and this is the Skids, a very on the Skids, playing Into the Valley from the wonderful Glasgow Apollo in 1979. Can you believe that? I can't even work it out. It's that long ago now. I can't even work out how many years ago it is. So hope you enjoy this. A couple of songs here. There's Into the Valley, and then there's one we've played before.
Living in a lie, but it's testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, baby, turn away. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Trapped in the glass, but now we're free. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, baby, turn away. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Trapped in the glass, but now we're free. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, baby, turn away. Anytime, let's shout it. Hey, I'm shoppers. Baby, stop. And what's up? Finally, I'm good. Hold up. Hey, Mira. Diane Parker. Hold up, Austin. Glasgow. Okay, thank you.
That sounded like it was a mental gig, didn't it? Really good vibe in the room, and they were just mucking about in the middle of that, and you really got the vibe that was pretty cool to be a Skids fan back in 1979. I was only 12, so I guess I could have been at those gigs, but it was maybe a wee bit of a stretch to get to those from Carluke. I think sneaking out when I got to go to gigs in '81 was enough. But I do find I've said this before in the show. I regret being in a sort of tribe, the rock tribe, and not getting to see a lot of these punk bands because I could have seen a load of them. So the Skids are a brilliant band, and there's quite a good picture of them here. You see the youthful looking Stuart Adamson there, but they were a good band, and they wrote some brilliant songs. So yeah, I like the Skids. Good outfit. I know Andy likes them as well. So I'm going to change pace completely now and go to one of the most successful bands ever out of the United Kingdom. They were actually the biggest selling band in the UK in the 1980s, and it wasn't Duran Duran, it wasn't the Spandau Ballet, it was Dire Straits. And this is a band that I initially, when I first heard them, I remember I think it was Tunnel of Love. I thought they were terrible. No, it wasn't. It was Romeo and Juliet. It wasn't Tunnel of Love. It was Romeo and Juliet. I thought absolutely terrible. I couldn't get my head around them at all. And then I was working in a gents outfitters in Wishaw, a place called Brooks, with a guy called Jim. And I think I've published I posted it on the Facebook group, Jim McAnally's name, and he was a big Dire Straits fan, and the album Love Over Gold had just come out. Now at that point, I was a sort of early Pink Floyd. I was into Pink Floyd. I liked obviously Wish You Were Here, and I liked some of the earlier Syd Barrett stuff. But I was only a kid. I was learning. But then I heard Private Investigations, and I was like, whoa, and that was it. Loved them. And I think that, it was kind of, I loved them in reverse though. I never ever liked many tracks off Brothers in Arms, and I didn't like the other, I can't even tell you what the other album was called, but I loved Love Over Gold. I think it's an absolutely stunning album. But for this, I'm going to go right back to the very beginning of the band, because they did have a great start, and they actually made it in the UK and America at the same time, which is really unusual for bands from the UK back then. So this is Sultans of Swing, recorded at the Glasgow Apollo by the band Dire Straits, Martin Knopfler and the gang. It's a fantastic recording of a brilliant song. So I really hope you enjoy this. I listened to it earlier and I just loved it. That was brilliant.
guitar out. I use my guitar, she's the one I call. So we're gonna make that guitar cry, make it sing. And an old guitar makes us all I can afford. When he gets on with those color lines, he's gonna play that. And how he doesn't mind if he doesn't make that fancy sing. Good time, Charlie, doing quite alright, thank you very much. We play our home guitar just like that. With the Sultan. With the Sultan, and a crowd of boys, they just put it right in the corner. Looking busy, back even the best king's gold. Don't give a damn about any trumpet ringing bell. They didn't know what they know, they rock and roll. Do but the Sultan. Oh yeah, the Sultan's the same Creole. Just step right up to the microphone. Says the fastest as the time bell rings. Tonight, like I knew there was time to go. Makes it fast in one more ring. We are the Sultans. We are the Sultans.
That was a brilliant Dire Straits with one of their earliest songs, Sultans of Swing. The other thing that I learnt today when I was pulling these bits and pieces together was that Dire Straits wrote Private Dancer, that was made famous by Tina Turner. No doubt you lot knew that. I didn't know it. Which kind of now when I think about it, yeah, you can see that it's a Dire Straits song, can't you? You can really tell it's a Dire Straits song. It's a big tune, that one. But yeah, very good. And I love the fact that, well, with any guitarist, I love it when they invent a sound and you can always tell Mark Knopfler is playing. He's such a brilliant guitarist. And I listened to his show on the Rock and Tour podcast that Andy and I have been talking about for the last few weeks. And it wasn't with Mark Knopfler, it was actually with I've forgotten his name. Hang on, let me just tell you what his name is. I've forgotten his blinking name. That's terrible. Where are they? Let me just see. I need to get the names right because I get abuse from everybody if I get the blinking names wrong. Where's the picture of Dire? There's Dire Straits there. John Isley, that big tall guy there. So when he was, we were talking about how the band started and how they started to develop a sound, and they went from being quite heavily influenced by almost sort of a Bob Dylan-ish type things, and then they moved through into, well, I think they became a prog band. I mean, certainly Love Over Gold is pretty much a prog album. I don't think anyone could claim that it's not a prog album. So anyway, so yeah, Dire Straits, what a band. And it's amazing that they broke up and that was it. They've never had a comeback tour. They've not even talked about it. I don't think it's ever going to happen. They're getting on now. Look, you ever saw the show that Mark Knopfler did with Brian Johnson from AC/DC when he did that, that Brian Johnson chat show thing he does. And honest to goodness, it was really funny because the two of them were walking along the beach or the beachfront. Anyway, we were down near the water and there were two old men just talking about music. And Mark Knopfler's demeanour doesn't quite match the sophistication and the complexity of his guitar playing, but absolutely fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed it. So that's me managed to do 40 minutes already. Andy and I do this every week, don't we? It's amazing how time flies when you're enjoying yourself. Anyway, by now it should be about 9:30, 10:30. We'll be finishing up, or some of us will probably be trying to go somewhere else now, I think, from Lauders. So I hope we're all right. James, I hope you behaved yourself. Yeah, so we'll be finishing up. And one of the bands that I go on about all the time, I know I go on about them all the time, but it's Marillion. And 2 weeks ago, I went to the Marillion. So it's a biannual get together. It's like a convention. They do these 4 or 5 gigs over the world where they do 3 nights, where they usually do a full old album. They do the new album, then they do a sort of best of. They usually do an up tempo night or whatever. But this year, they were in Leicester at the De Montfort Hall, as they seem to be most times now when they come to the UK. They moved around a wee bit at first, but now they seem to be focused on Leicester, and it's perfect for it because you can, there's a lot of hotels. The De Montfort Hall is a very nice medium-sized hall. I think it only holds 2,000. But it sells out. You get 3 nights, 3 sold out nights. But what I love about it is that all round about the venue, all the pubs and some of the little clubs have Marillion tribute bands playing. So everybody gets up in the morning, has their breakfast, goes to a gig. Around about lunchtime, just after lunchtime, I prefer. There's a band called Still Marillion, which is the lead singers from Glasgow, and they're a great band. I go and see them, and they play Fish era Marillion. And at night, if you can still stand, you go and see the current band at the De Montfort Hall. Now they've turned from quite a new prog band into quite an ambient sounding band, and I'm not as big a fan, certainly of the last album, as I was of the album before that, which was called Fear, which is a fucking brilliant album. And I say fuck deliberately because that's in the title of the album. And the new album, I think, is a bit wishy-washy, as we'd say in Glasgow. But tonight I'm going to play a classic Marillion track from 1984. Marillion have only ever played the Apollo once. I love this recording. It's one of my favourite Rescued recordings because the intensity of the crowd is fantastic, singing every word of every song the band played that night. I first saw them across the road at the Pavilion. And that was a knockout night, a really, really special night. And then this gig, I missed this gig because I think I'd moved to Edinburgh by 1984. I saw them on the same tour, but I saw them at the Edinburgh Playhouse. Not a patch on this. I mean, I've seen recordings from this tour from other venues. I've heard the recording from Edinburgh. didn't touch this. I've chosen a track. I nearly put Grendel on, but I thought I better not because it's 20 odd minutes long and we've already done an hour, we've done 42 minutes. So I'm not pulling Grendel, you'll be glad to hear. But this is a song that it's full of those early Fish lyrics, which are either quite naive and they're a bit complicated. And I think that's what led to some folk thinking they sounded like Genesis. I never got that, never ever got it. I think it's a load of nonsense. I think it's folk that just never listened to them. I certainly never went to see them live. But this is Script for a Jester's Tear, which I think is a brilliant song, absolutely brilliant, and it's still one of my favourite songs when I go and see one of the tribute acts live. The Marillion themselves, they do it occasionally. I think I saw them doing it at the Palladium in London about 5 or 6 years ago, but it's something they don't do very often. It was a long time ago. So this is Script by the one and only Marillion. I really hope you enjoy it, and this one goes out to you, Boots, especially. I hope you really enjoy Big Fish blasting out the lyrics to Script for a Jester's Tear. So that was Marillion closing tonight's little thank you to absent friends tonight. It's now an hour into the show, and I think we're all probably quite well refreshed now. So listen, thanks very much for all your support. Andy and I can't believe that this has gone on as long as it's gone on, and it's still going on. So thank you. Hopefully next time we can have more of you at a live event, because we've got some ideas and we're working on some plans to see if we can do something really different next year in 2023 to make it even bigger and more interesting for folk to come and visit and see some music live in Glasgow. So thanks as always for supporting us by buying the t-shirts. They've been amazingly successful. We've never had anything that's worked like that before, and that's down to Andy's brilliant design. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for those of you who have bought us a cup of coffee and a pint or whatever. It really is appreciated. It allows us to pay for the software, and it's not cheap, to be honest, but it really helps us. So thanks very much. So I think the only way to end this really is to do the normal play out and hear Andy giving it loudly over there in Australia. So from me, Scott MacArthur, and Andy Muir over there in Sydney, thanks for your support for Glasgow Polo Live. We won't see you next week because I'm going to be at Glastonbury, as I said at the beginning of the show. But again, I might do something. I think I've got an idea, actually. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed it. See you soon. Good night. Come on, Andy, get on with it.